Lennox Lewis, the champion you thought you knew. When people talk about the greatest heavyweights in boxing history, the same names are always mentioned: power punchers, fearsome destroyers, unstoppable forces. And then there is Lennox Lewis, calm, calculated, methodical, a champion who rarely looked dramatic, yet quietly built one of the most complete heavyweight legacies the sport has ever seen. But behind that composed exterior lies a career filled with strange moments, controversial twists, and one of the most disturbing scenes ever witnessed inside a boxing ring. And tonight, we ask you, did you really know Lennox Lewis? The man who never looked rushed. Lennox Lewis never fit the traditional heavyweight stereotype. Born in London in 1965, Lewis moved to Canada as a child, growing up far from the British boxing scene that would later claim him as its greatest icon. He was quiet, intelligent, and physically imposing, but never reckless. Boxing came naturally, but it was never chaotic. From the very beginning, Lewis fought like a man thinking several moves ahead, and that would become the defining theme of his entire career. The Olympic gold that raises questions. In 1988, Lennox Lewis won Olympic gold. But here is the detail that still surprises many fans. He won it representing Canada, not Great Britain. At the time, Lewis was living and training in Canada, and the country gave him the structure and opportunity to compete at the highest amateur level. So let us ask you directly, does this change how you see him as a British icon? Can someone represent one nation and later become the symbol of another? Lewis himself would later return to Britain as a professional, eventually becoming the country's most successful heavyweight champion. But that dual identity never fully disappeared. Becoming champion without throwing a punch. In 1992, something extraordinary happened. Lennox Lewis became world heavyweight champion without stepping into the ring. At the time, the WBC champion was Riddick Bowe. Lewis was the mandatory challenger, having earned his position legitimately. Bowe refused to fight him, not quietly, not diplomatically. During a press conference, Bowe famously threw the WBC belt into a rubbish bin, rejecting the title rather than facing Lewis. As a result, Lennox Lewis was declared WBC world champion by default. So here's a question. Does winning a title without fighting weaken a legacy? Or does it say more about the opponent who refused? The strangest night of all, 1997. Now we arrive at the moment that still unsettles those who witnessed it. In 1997, Lennox Lewis faced Oliver McCall in a rematch. McCall had previously knocked Lewis out years earlier. This fight was meant to be about revenge, closure, and redemption. Instead, it became something else entirely. From the third round onwards, McCall stopped fighting. Not because he was tired, not because he was hurt, he simply stopped. He lowered his arms, refused to throw punches, and then, in front of a global audience, he began to cry. Tears streamed down his face as he walked around the ring, unguarded, emotionally collapsing under the lights. The referee, Mills Lane, watched helplessly. By the fifth round, he had no choice but to stop the fight. Lennox Lewis was declared the winner and the new WBC champion, but no one celebrated. So ask yourself, what did it feel like to win a world title like that? And how do you process a victory born from another man's breakdown? Silence in the ring. That night changed how many people saw boxing. The ring is supposed to be a place of controlled violence, not emotional collapse. Lewis did nothing wrong. He followed the rules. He stayed composed. Yet that fight is remembered not for his performance, but for McCall's unraveling. It remains one of the most uncomfortable moments in heavyweight history, and perhaps one of the most human. Defeat, revenge, and absolute control. Lennox Lewis lost only 2 fights in his professional career. What makes that remarkable is what followed. He avenged both defeats. Every man who ever beat Lennox Lewis was later beaten by Lennox Lewis. That is almost unheard of in heavyweight boxing. No excuses, no avoidance. No unfinished business. So let us ask, is that the mark of true greatness, not avoiding defeat but correcting it? The thinker in a brutal sport, outside the ring, Lennox Lewis is known for something unexpected. He loves chess. He has often credited the game with shaping his boxing mind, teaching him patience, positioning, sacrifice, and long-term planning. While others relied on instinct, Lewis relied on calculation, and in heavyweight boxing, that may have been his greatest weapon of all. Walking away on his own terms, unlike many champions, Lennox Lewis did not overstay his time. He retired as an undisputed heavyweight champion, healthy, mentally clear, financially secure, no comeback, no desperation, just a quiet exit. So here is the final question. Would boxing history look different if more champions walked away like Lennox Lewis did? The champion who never panicked. Lennox Lewis was never the loudest, never the wildest, never the most dramatic, but he may have been one of the most complete. A British icon who won Olympic gold for Canada, a world champion without a fight, a man who reclaimed every loss, and a champion who witnessed one of boxing's darkest moments and remained composed. So now we ask you, did you know these facts about Lennox Lewis? What is your opinion on him representing Canada and becoming a British legend? Where do you rank Lennox Lewis among the greatest heavyweights of all time? Leave your thoughts in the comments, because some champions shout their greatness, others let history speak.